Welcome back to Echo Ridge in another episode here in our Max Colonization series, where we're finally exploring the star map. If you remember from the last episode, we finished our wonderful petroleum boiler, and as you can see, it is sitting pretty static right now, and that's because all of our petroleum tanks are full. I had even sent the ESS Explorer, captained by the very capable Fallout Stan, off to explore the star map. So far, we've done a pretty good job. The petroleum rocket with the 3 tanks and 3 small oxidizer tanks has a total range of 30, so we've managed to make it all the way out here to the edge. Of course, the first thing I am looking for is the point of interest that holds the fullerene so we can get our hands on some supercoolant. So far, we have not found it. We did find Regalido though, and the ESS Explorer has a rover's module. And if I stop them from moving, we can then deploy rover's module, which we will do once again. Oh, that reminds me, I never gave you an update on this poor rover here on Wintrill, and that's because I completely forgot about them, and their battery has reached an end. Why in the world, after the Bionic DLC, we still can't charge rover? I'll never understand. But over here on Regalido, you can see there's not a lot of options for where we are going to land. So I'm thinking about just doing it in one of these areas here where we have the most room. Oh, maybe this area right here would actually be better, because then I could put the rocket right here. Yeah, let's do that. And with the lander coming down, it means I can send the ESS Explorer off on another mission. So we'll go down here a little bit and start scanning this corner here. Something else we'll probably end up doing today is retrofitting the ESS Colonizer, which is going to be our rocket responsible for landing on these planetoids and starting to get them set up. It will of course require some retrofit on the inside though, not to mention a crew of pretty capable duplicants. Additionally, it will require rework on the oxygen system because a colonizing rocket needs to have suits, which means it needs to have a gas pump that's capable of filling those suits, and the mini gas pump just really wouldn't be up to the task. Now you may have noticed inside the ESS Explorer, we put in a smart battery. Well, we did that because unlike the colonizer that has a battery module on it, the ESS Explorer has a rover's module. And when we add the rover's module, we just don't have room to place a battery module on the rocket. Now, we wouldn't necessarily need a range of 30. For instance, if we're colonizing Wintrill, it's only 6 tiles away. So we could get away with a range of 12. Or even Silvial, which we still haven't even landed a rover on yet. And it has some nice volcanoes on it too. But the point being is you don't necessarily have to have them outfitted for the full range of 30. But what I'll end up doing is exploring the entire star map and then getting a plan of how we want to colonize each of the planets. And if there's no planet that is further than 10 tiles away, i.e. we can get there and back with a range of 20, I'll be able to cut down on the large liquid fuel tank and the small oxidizer tank, and then most likely add a couple more solar panel modules to this one as well. So today in the background, I'm going to be doing a lot of that exploring, and I'll give you updates from time to time whenever the ESS Explorer is getting ready to run out of gas, and we'll send it back. Over on our home planetoid, I want to be able to solve our crab problem. We have a lot of poke shells running around. Now that I say that, I only see these 2, but I promise you they're everywhere. So I figured it'd be a good time to set up a small ranch for them, and that way I can get some additional lime, and then we can turn all that lime into some more sweet, sweet steel. Not to mention, we still haven't made a dent in all of our polluted dirt that we have here. There's 40 tons sitting right here, and according to our resources pane, we have 55 tons left on the planetoid. The issue is, when you're feeding the poke shells, it gets a little dirty, because they're eating the polluted dirt, so you want to make sure you have a sink. It would be ideal if I could put them down in this situation here, because then they'd have to run past the bathrooms and of course wash their hands. Plus I wouldn't need the dupes to be in suits. It would also save me from composting all of this. Now we are still growing the sea combs, which is important, and each sea comb requires 10 kilos worth of dirt, but we do have renewable sources, and one of the primary ones is the water sieve. The water sieve produces polluted dirt at 200 grams per second. Well, at 600 seconds per cycle, that would equal 120 kilos. Obviously, the water sieve's not running 100% of the time though, but we can see that in the last 5 cycles, it's been running 22% of the time. So So now we can get a pretty good idea of how much polluted dirt we are producing just from this one water sieve. At 22% of the 120 kilos comes out to be 26.4. So not enough to run all 4 sea combs and feed some poke shells, who incidentally eat a massive 70 kilos per cycle. But we also have this water sieve here that's helping draining all these ponds. Plus we have the water sieve providing the water for our spawn, and it runs 100% of the time. So with the 26.4 kilos from our bathroom sieve and the 120 kilos from this sieve, you can say that we're making about 150 kilos worth of polluted dirt per cycle, especially when you consider the occasional rot pile, whether that being from food not being eaten, or maybe some mimolets going bad, not to mention the overgrows. So I think it's pretty safe to say that we can support 2 poke shells in a ranch. But I think it's also safe to say that I don't need 4 sea combs anymore, considering I'm up over 50,000 sea comb leaves. So what if we just made this the ranch? No, that wouldn't be a great idea, because then the crabs would end up turning into lobsters, i.e. the sani shells, and they don't have a molt. Remember, they produce raw shellfish instead. Whereas the whole reason we're doing this is for that sweet, sweet poke shell molt. So I think we need to move the mammoth out. Where am I going to put you now, mammoth? Why don't you come live in the mess hall? That seems like a great place for a giant critter. We definitely don't need these triage cots here anymore, so we can get rid of those. I'm going to stop composting our polluted dirt. We are up to 572 tons of regular dirt, but then that makes me ask the question, are we getting dirt from somewhere else? Remember, we need it for fertilization on the mimica bugs. No, I don't know if we do have a source of dirt. Of course, with 572 tons, it's going to last an awfully long time, but we'll just keep that as a future echo problem. Worst comes to worst, we can come over here on Recallan, grab a pip and an arbor tree, and boom, we're back in action for dirt. My reminder system has told me it's time to check on the ESS Explorer, which reminded me that I wanted to show you my new reminder system. If you remember from before, I used to have just an automated notifier and a timer, with the timer of course being set on cycles. Well, I've decided to upgrade the system with an AND gate. That way I can turn on and off the reminders. In this case, the ESS Explorer is out to space, so I have the signal switch on, so it's going to remind me every 2 cycles that, hey, we might want to go check on it. I'm also going to need reminder systems for each of the planetoids. So for instance, if I set up a project on Recallan and I need to check back in say 5-10 cycles, instead of me failing the dupes, I can just set a reminder. One of the first things I have to do when I'm trying to design a ranch is look and see how much space each poke shell requires. Remember, we've already decided that we're going to be running 2 poke shells, and the database says they each require 12 cells of space. So I think this area is going to be just fine, considering it looks like this ranch is going to have about 36 tiles of space. And after a little bit of setup, here's what I have for our poke shell ranch. We have a conveyor receptacle that is pulling polluted dirt right off the same line that's going over to the sea combs. And that way this auto sweeper can load up the critter feeder directly from the conveyor receptacle. We have our 2 poke shells in here. We're going to be giving this a lot of sand. Remember, they give us 50% of all the polluted dirt they eat, so about 35 kilos per cycle per poke shell. And you'll notice, in addition to loading up this critter feeder, this auto sweeper is going to be loading all the eggs into the conveyor loader and send them off to this excess egg room. Additionally, the auto sweeper can also reach this incubator, which incidentally has a higher priority at a 5 than the conveyor loader at a 4. So the auto sweeper will load the egg into the incubator first. Not a big deal here in the early late game of oxygen not included, but like I said, at least this will give us a renewable source of the poke shell molts that we can turn into steel. It also allows me to get rid of all the poke shells on the map. So I'm going to relocate this one into this very comfortable living situation right here. And I know there's some other poke shells around here. Some of you can probably already see them. I just don't know where they went. The pod has seen it fit to give us a wonderful Bonnie, who's a +7 strength tidier, who's also handy in construction. Their only negative is that they're a pacifist, so I think they'll make a great member of either this colony or some faraway planetoid on the star map. Welcome to duplicate number 27, Pajama Llama. It really is unfortunate the Pajama Llama's name didn't come up while we were grabbing all the sleepy dupes. It would have just been so fitting. Unfortunately, Pajama Llama has been sentenced to a life of work and not sleep. Well, that's after they spend quite a long time here in the gym. And for some reason, Pajama Llama was getting an unrested too bright over here. I'm thinking this has to do with a dupe that has glow stick that was keeping Pajama Llama up. Because look at all three of these dupes. They're all super tired. And I found out who it is. It's Univector Llama. We can see by looking at their light that they produce light in a 5-tile range. So what I might do is just switch them with Glenn Sullivan's cot. Since we know Andy is sleeping right here, they are not on the same schedule. And yeah, the dupes running by will see their light, but they won't be sleeping by then. We're at cycle 1334. I wonder how long that problem's been going on. Bob, what are you doing? No, Bob. Oh no, did I forget to set Bob's sleepy schedule? Bob is on the sleepy schedule. Why in the world, during their bath time, would they end up going to the rustic manual generator? Well, just to make sure, we're going to stop the dupes from going here too. It's time again to check on the ESS Explorer, and I'm about to set a new destination. Notice that we have a range of 12 tiles remaining, so I need to make sure that we have enough gas to get home. You'll also notice that I'm traveling 4 tiles away from the edge of the map. I do this because we're using the telescope inside the rocket interior, and that telescope has a range of 3. So as long as I stay on this line, I'll be able to reveal all the way to the edge of the map. And dang it, I just realized I forgot about Rover again. This is all wonderful cold regolith, so I'm just going to start chewing through it, hopefully to make a little staircase that goes down to give us a little bit more visibility. There are shovels here, so at least we'll have some source of food. Speaking of shovels, hi buddy! Don't worry, one day you'll be feeding a couple of duplicates. Maybe I should consider putting a reminder system up for the rovers as well. Quick update on our crab farm. Both of the crabs are tame now and will be providing us more poke shell roe eggs at a rate of 17% per cycle. So pretty soon we should have a good supply of that poke shell molt. So it looks like the Explorer has done all the exploring it can. We did find another planetoid in Gasito. Unfortunately, we don't have another rovers module. We will chart a course back, and as soon as they get back, we'll reload with more oxalite, more food, and then send them out on their way again. If I were to wait just a little bit longer, which to tell you the truth I should, but I guess I'm gonna have to come back to this point anyways. Wait a minute, this is only 8 tiles away. I have one more tile, so I think I can go here and then find out what these objects here are. Then we'll send Fallout Stam home. I mean, we still have 32 cycles worth of food. Okay, now the Explorer is done. We found a glimmering asteroid field and a frozen cinnabar asteroid field. Nothing very exciting there. Now, oh no. How did I manage this? Oh, I counted the planetoid itself. Maybe they'll be able to land if I get them in orbit. Hopefully. Quick update over here in Recallin. As you can see, I've made a small boo-boo, and we have carbon dioxide, well, suffocating both dupes. It's because I forgot to cork up this carbon dioxide geyser after I analyzed it. So let me try to get rid of all these polluted ice chunks and then seal this thing up. Unfortunately, there's like 2 kilos in every single tile, so these few slicksters aren't able to eat it all. Let me try to open this up a little bit more too. To make matters worse, apparently we ran out of power. Not quite sure how we did that, considering we've been on the hydrogen, but since the pump had no power, it couldn't pump any more hydrogen. So maybe we do have a power deficit. I have enabled this wheel again, so we can at least get a little bit of power to this gas pump, which will kickstart the whole power network again. This is part of the problems that you run into when you have multiple planetoids. I haven't been paying attention over here, and hilariously enough, the rocket could still land. I couldn't set its destination to Fernial, but what I could do was select the rocket platform and then click land here. Yeah, that scalding is just, you know, Fallout Stan trying to make it back. Oh, then they're gonna have to run through the sauna. Unfortunately, they don't really have a choice other than to hold their breath and get burned, because the suit they had on in here was worn out. So I was not able to put them back in it. But they made it... Wait a minute, why is there O2 in here? Well, that's not good. That means we've been transferring heat. There we go. Now it'll be a vacuum again. Some of the dupes are a little mad. I wouldn't allow them to come home, but they'll be okay. And now that I'm looking at it, I know exactly what happened. Our oxalite refinery is up here, so a dupe must have grabbed a little piece of oxalite before the auto sweeper could pick it up, and then brought it through this opening here. Oh no, I don't need to check on the Explorer. Let me turn off my reminder. Everything looks pretty good. The battery has generated a little bit more heat than we like, but remember we do have the water coming in here, with the fresh water at 28 degrees. Oh, wait a minute. It's whenever the duplicants are taking the oxalite and then going to fill up the rockets. Well, this is just not a convenient system. I guess I'm just gonna have to deal with it. And one way I can do that is by keeping a gas pump in here. We'll put a high pressure gas vent right there. And any gases that appear in this little room will be siphoned out. I've been running some experiments with jet suits because eventually I'm gonna wanna put some additional rockets, and I was thinking about putting them in these positions here, but I don't want to have to run ladders everywhere because those ladders would end up blocking some port loaders and unloaders. Well, the problem I'm running into is if I have a jet suit checkpoint here, let me put this on a priority 0 so they don't build it again, and then say 4 docks, well, the duplicants will not take off their Atmo suit to change into a jet suit. In fact, a duplicant in an Atmo suit can pass right by a jet suit at checkpoint. So what you have to do is actually take them out of their Atmo suit and then allow them to get into their jet suit. The issue with that has been, well, there's just not a lot of room here. So if I did it like, say, 3, then I only have room for 2 of these. I could probably make it work if I took out this permissions door with just 3 and 3. The issue then becomes anybody that is heading towards a rocket is going to end up having a jet suit on. And my initial plan was, well, I would change the permissions just for you, not allow you to get into a jet suit, and that way you could end up piloting a rocket without us having to drop a jet suit off inside the rocket. Because I don't know if you know this, but jet suits inside of rockets, very not good idea. Speaking of which, it looks like the Explorer is ready to go. Let's crew it up, change its destination, and head down this path here. In fact, I'll go this way. That way I can get visibility on both of these objects, and then we're just going to keep circling around the star map, 4 tiles out. Easy peasy. Over on Recalin, I have put in a solution to fix the carbon dioxide issue, and that is our standard gas pump connected to some automation. We're looking for oxygen. If we don't find it, we're going to turn that red signal into a green, send it through a filter gate just to make sure it doesn't flicker, and turn on the gas pump. All I need to do is add a little bridge right there, and then the pump will send all of those gases, mostly carbon dioxide, to the vacuum of space. And then maybe Mustang Cody and Callie will be able to get a good night's sleep while actually breathing oxygen. Additionally, I've realized that I could probably help the power situation, even though we're now sitting at over 500 kilos worth of hydrogen backed up, by just switching the smart battery on this network, which is running this thermal aqua tuner, to have the steam turbine run first. So we'll have it say 9060 and the hydrogen generator on 9040. Oh no, this is not what I wanted right here. Nope, this is bad. I need another bridge. I will separate like this, and that way the excess hydrogen that cannot fit into the network will have priority to head to the vacuum of space, and when this line is empty, which it mostly is, the carbon dioxide will then flow. Looks like we're gonna have, some broken generators, but we'll get them fixed up. Elsewhere on our home planetoid, I have finally started to bulldoze this area, and if you remember from a very long time ago, this hot rock we sort of sealed off and said we'll deal with it later. Well, now's that time. I'm not too scared of the hot petrified fossil or the diamond around it anymore, for the simple reason, well, I've got plenty of chill down here, and I don't mind if everything here melts. We have a perfect bee sanctuary that now has over 1,300 kilos of hydrogen in every single tile. So yeah, we're creating a little bit of steam, but it quickly condenses back into water, which then helps cool this whole thing down again. And the good news is now we'll be 3/4 of the way through the ancient specimen story trait. The last one is way over here, which we'll end up bulldozing through. The question then becomes, what are we going to do down here? I don't think much of anything. I don't want to set up a nuclear reactor for the simple reason I don't have a renewable source of uranium. Even though I eventually will need some radiation, That way we can run the interplanetary launchers. Second full trip of the ESS Explorer has completed, the biggest notable being that we found Blastora, and I of course forgot to drop a rover off there, but no big deal. We are heading back, and the good news is Fallout Stand will not get burned because they are in the suit whether they like it or not. I figure it's going to take me 1, maybe 2 more trips out to reveal the rest of the star map, but so far, Blastora is the furthest planetoid away, and it's only 10 tiles, which means our colonizer rocket is most likely not going to need a range of 30, which is good because it'll give me more options for the interior of the rocket. I've been playing with some designs. I'm still not happy with the way they're coming out, so I'm going back to the drawing board. Over on Recalin, we've managed to get rid of most of the carbon dioxide. I've also opened this area out a little bit. That way there was more slicksters to help out. Plus, it gave us access to some juicy lead. Not that I'm using it right now, but I still like to have it. And yeah, I have absolutely butchered this hydrogen program because now the carbon dioxide is taking a 50-50 split. So I am once again going to need another bridge. So just more chaos here on Recalin. The yet another bridge did manage to fix the problem here on Recalin. We still have a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean 340 kilos worth of carbon dioxide to work through. So as a temporary stopgap, I'm just going to filter out the good stuff and get rid of everything else. There we go. That'll work out much better. At long last, we've explored the entire star map. It was only one more trip. Well, I suppose every tile except for this one. But I think I can still make it happen. If I go to this space right there, we'll then be able to scan this and confirm that it doesn't have anything. And then I should still be able to make it back. Barely. Once again. Of note though, all the planetoids are within 10 spaces. Now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know if I've ever seen a planetoid in this last ring. We did manage to find 3 gilded asteroid fields, which are important because they hold the full arene. Unfortunately, not a single one of them had more than 10% full arene, but that's okay, we will make do. So I suppose the next episode is going to involve landing on one of these planetoids. Probably start with the closest to the bunch, Civial, which also means I need to get to work on this rocket redesign. Fallout Stan is about to end this episode for us, and there we go. Now we can say the entire star map has been explored. I know this was a bit of a hodgepodge episode, but all of it really needed to be done, and if I'm going to be sitting here, I might as well be recording anyways. Let me know if you like the idea of hitting up Civial as the first planetoid down in the comments below. Hope you enjoyed this episode and are still looking forward to more in the series. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.